Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 28th day. We are right at the end of August, and I tell you, folks, here in the Nashville, Tennessee area, it has been 100 degrees for the regular temperature, for the actual temperature the last couple of days, maybe over 100 today, but anyways, got a lot I want to talk about tonight as usual. Quarterbacks, are they just a crapshoot at this point? I'll talk about that. And Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs, I'll be honest with you, they can win the Super Bowl. They can win 3 straight. The more I think about this and look at this team, just because something hasn't been done before doesn't make, I'm not sure. I'm still picking teams. I've completed the NFC North. Thought I was going to be able to get both, get the NFC East in there today, but I'm going to do the North because they're playing Friday. The North is playing Friday, a week from this Friday. Next Friday, of course, the Packers will be playing the Eagles in Brazil. So anyways, plus, the Bears, they had another Hard Knocks today, last night and whatnot. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Going to go over the NFC North, a few other things, news and notes if I get around to, and more. So let's take our first and only break, and I'll be back here after a few short announcements. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
That's right. Bet responsibly. Nice new commercial there from my guy Mac with Northeast or National Streaming Sports now. Since they really, I'm out of the South region and whatnot. They used to just be the Northeast Streaming. Now they're the National Streaming. This program is on Roku TV under the SSP. So that's why we want to make sure and promote them as much as possible. Okay. Now, the Chiefs. I will have to say this. This team is the truth of the matter. They have overcame odds over the last few years. They have beat the what I would say as the norm. Okay, they are reminding me so much of this Patriot team. It's scary for the rest of the league, to be honest with you, folks. Okay, Patrick Mahomes, his cap hit as a quarterback was over the Tom Brady 12.8% cap hit, who had won a Super Bowl prior. All right. No quarterback. And we're talking guys like going down to Peyton Manning, who's like 15-16% of the cap at one point. I want to say in 2009, when the Saints won and whatnot. Quarterbacks that take over that, and now I think it's closer to like 14, 15, because they obviously they beat the Eagles, you know. So they've overcame one bridge there, you know. They've overcame one hurdle per se. All right. And you look back last year, not really a marquee receiver. They were depending on Rashee Rice, a rookie player there. And a 34-year-old who's going to be 35 this year, Travis Kelce, and a good defense and a well-coached defense. It was, and not to mention, I mentioned this time last year when I'm breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs, they lost their left tackle, if you recall. Orlando Brown, a high-end left tackle last year. He ends up signing with Cincinnati. All right. So they brought in Donovan Smith last year, and I thought, and then they placed a right tackle and put in Jawan Taylor. He's lining up wrong in the first game. Recall that the Detroit game, he's lining up wrong. Their Chris Jones didn't even show up. He's still holding out. And they lose that game 21-20 last year. And I thought, okay, my predictions are right. It's not going to work out for Kansas City. And, of course, we know what happened. They end up winning the thing anyways. Well, right now, if you really look at this roster, per se, they have changed left tackles again. And they just extended, by the way, Creed Humphrey, their center. They one of the best centers in the game. Brett Veach has done a good job. Got him extended there, Creed Humphrey. But also look at the fact that they have changed left tackle. They've got this guy that I've never heard of, Kingsley Sanuta, left tackle. Never heard of this guy. Never even heard of this guy. Now, that's another new name. So they're changing left tackles last 2 years in a row. And they've seemed to have gotten away with it other than the Super Bowl back against the Tampa Bay Bucks a few years ago. Other than that, they've mentioned that and they changing out offensive linemen like they're musical chairs on that left side. But Andy Reid has found a way to get around it, okay? But you look at this year's team, you got guys like Xavier Worthy, a speedster out of Texas. He's just a rookie, though. And Rice is still there. You've got Hollywood Brown, who's injured. They brought back Juju Smith-Schuster yesterday. You know, okay. I didn't think in the offseason they really got a shot to come back. I think everything's going to catch up with them. But the truth be told, there's just only a handful of quarterbacks in the AFC that can keep them out of the Super Bowl, okay? Josh Allen, who's got a team that is replacing several defensive players this year. Allen did beat him in the regular season on a regular basis. They always seem to have injuries in the playoffs. Last year, they've had Bills. They've had injuries at linebacker and whatnot. And it just didn't work out for them. They end up getting beat anyways. And, of course, Joe Burrow himself, he went to Arrowhead and has beat Patrick Mahomes. I think he was, 3-0 at one point against Mahomes. He was hurt last year, but he can beat Mahomes in the playoffs. And with the Jim Harbaugh, yes, Justin Herbert can beat him. But you look at guys like Lamar Jackson, I don't think he can beat Patrick Mahomes in the play. I just don't think. Plus, they've got 3 linemen down themselves because he's getting paid a lot of money, Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, I'm not sure he's going to be healthy by the time they get to the playoffs. All right? Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he can beat Patrick Mahomes right now. I just don't. I think it's in his head. I don't think they can beat this Chiefs team, even though they're built up. The Chiefs are constantly losing players because of cap issues, but they're keeping core guys together. They did lose Snead to Tennessee at the cornerback position, but they still got a tackle and Chris Jones, one of the better defensive tackles in the league, and they still got their best defense coordinator, Spags there, probably the best in the NFL right now. Okay, but and maybe Stroud, but he's a second-year player. Maybe C.J. Stroud, but you start to look at teams. Possibly an NFC if they get there. Matt Stafford, who's a much older player, you don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to finish the season. Jordan Love did beat them in Green Bay last year. I don't think they can beat them in the big game. If both teams in a neutral site, I don't think Jordan Love can beat them. The Eagles, I do think Detroit could beat them with Jared Goff. The moment's not too big. He did beat them in the regular season. They're expected to win this year. But, there's just not that many teams in the AFC that can beat this team. They can beat Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They have a real legit shot. And a lot of people's just saying it's not going to happen because it hasn't. And I've been, one of them, obviously. The way they play musical chairs with that left tackle, you'd think that would catch up with them, But Mahomes is so athletic, he can get away. And of course, Andy Reid puts a good scheme in there to really twist up the defense. So the truth of the matter is it can happen. It can happen, Remember last year they went on the road and went to Buffalo in January, beat them. Then the next week went to Baltimore and won there. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of ifs and nuts and candy and nuts. But again, it's probably only 3 quarterbacks: Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert in the AFC that I have faith in. I know they can beat them with the right game plan and whatnot. But, there's 32 teams in the league. That's 3 out of the other remaining 15 teams that I think that can beat Mahomes and Andy Reid in the playoffs. I think the game gets too big for these quarterbacks. I don't know. But to just totally dismiss the fact that they can't three-peat, not sure about that. They can legitimately three-peat. And it's hard for a lot of us to say it, but they don't even have to be, healthy all year and have to have a lot of breaks other than just keep Mahomes healthy at this point. So it's something to think about. I was just looking at it, and even with all the distraction, you got Kelsey, you got the Taylor Swift thing. You're going to have media asking them every week. This is a team that can very well do it. They look distracted. They look defeated, and they come right back. Remember last year? They lost at home to the Raiders. Now, I will say this. There is a chance with Jim Harbaugh coaching Justin Herbert, the fact that they got a good pass rush there, I'm not too high on receivers in this league with that scheme, with that running game, with that offensive line, because I know they lost two players there, two key players. One was getting older, and the other one was hurt all the time, Mike Williams. And, of course, Keenan Allen with Chicago. But if you Kansas City's won without Tyreek Hill already. I think with that Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, I still think that can move. And that guy's a rookie. I do think that the Chargers could possibly put them down to a wild card, and it would be that much more difficult because then they have to play another road game. Remember last year they beat up on Miami in that brutally cold game in the playoffs in the first game. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. But I will legitimately say I have to change my take there. And really looking at, I do think this team can absolutely three-peat. And then you got to start talking about, where do you put Mahomes? I mean, geez, the guy's had 4. It would be his 4th ring. I would probably put him above Elway, And then where do you put Andy Reid? He's getting closer. So, anyways, food for thought there. Speaking of quarterbacks, folks. Wow. Okay. So I wanted to talk about this yesterday. Ran out of time. Just like today, I wanted to do the NFC East and the AFC North. But by prep time, I was just running out of time. Time was not on my side. All right. So I mentioned this yesterday with Rich Ferris about Malik Willis getting dealt, and you look at the 2022 quarterback class, okay, Kenny Pickett, I was for sure was going to work out in Pittsburgh. Now he's gotten moved to be a backup with Philadelphia. I think maybe he still might work out with the right situation and the right system, but I don't know if he's going to get that in Philadelphia with the kind of money pending an injury. Now, they've made some moves on the offensive line. What if Jalen Hurts gets hurt? Which he could. What if Jalen Hurts gets hurt and then he takes off in this offense? He gets a new life because he's out of that Pittsburgh defensive-minded head coach culture and possibly gets, with all that talent there in Philadelphia. But either way, this is the 2022 class here. Kenny Pickett, done. He's not with Pittsburgh. He was a bust as far as the Pittsburgh fans are concerned. Desmond Ridder just got cut by Arizona as a backup. Now they brought him back as a scout team guy. Brought him out to work with the scout team. So he's already done there. And that's why I was saying that you look at Arthur Smith down in Atlanta. I mean, he had Matt Ryan with all that dead cap money. Then he had a guy like Desmond Ridder, and he really didn't get a fair shake. I think he might get another stab at being a head coach, but he was a 3rd-round pick. He's done. He's done in Atlanta. They moved on from him. Malik Willis here out of Nashville, just mentioned him, also a 3rd-round pick in that 2022 class, and he's going to be the backup up there in Green Bay. Matt Corral, I think he ended up going to the 3rd round, went to Carolina. He's bounced around all over the place. I think he's back with the USFL. And Bailey Zappi, he was just released today. That was with the New England Patriots, done. And Sam Howell, he was the Commanders' starting quarterback last year, fired the coach, moved off him. Now he's a backup with Seattle elsewhere. And this Chris Alacha, and he's a 7th-round pick. God knows where he's at. And then Skylar Thompson, I believe, he's still out with the Dolphins. And of course, Brock Purdy, he was the only one that hit. You know, then you look at the 2021 class, folks. You've got guys like Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence was the only hit there. Justin Fields is done. I mean, just dud after dud after dud there. And, of course, last year you got Stroud. Nobody knows what Bryce Young's going to do. I guess my point is it's really not an exact science per se. But I will say this. You got to keep drafting them. You just got to keep drafting them. And one thing I would look for in a quarterback is a guy that makes quick decisions, gets rid of the ball quickly at the – now, of course, the fields are wider in college, okay? The players have more room to move around. Not everybody that you're going against is going to make the NFL. You can outrun some of the defensive players. I get that. But do you really want to get so caught up on arm strength in college? Do you really want to get caught up on athleticism at the college game? I think the more we get away from the way things used to be, the more we revert back to the way things used to be. As far as putting all these college systems in the NFL, the spread, the hurry up, you could see a lot of that was used with Arizona and Cliff Kingsbury, with Kyler Murray. Now that's kind of reverted. The last few years, you could see them play really well early. And then about week 8, they start to fade away. And Rex Ryan said this. He said, hey, listen, yeah, that looks good early in the season, but you wear your own team out playing like that. Then you look at the read option stuff. Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts. I do like Jalen, but he has been hurt late in the season. You know, I've grown to like Lamar Jackson, but he's also been hurt 2 of the last 3 years. Now, that's why they've got more of a pro-style offense set in around him. He took a big step. He won the MVP last year. Let's see how much more he does lean into that pro-style type of offense this year with 3 new offensive line. I'm just not sure about Baltimore right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's I wouldn't be afraid to take a quarterback. For example, Washington, they took 2 quarterbacks in one draft. They took Robert Griffin, folks. You remember that? They took Robert Griffin, traded up to get him. And that was the owner then. You could tell he's pushing for that. Traded up Robert Griffin out of Baylor, a Heisman Trophy winner. Then got Kirk Cousins, fourth round pick, I think, out of Michigan State. I was thinking, what are they doing? So they go out and get Kirk Cousins. And, of course, Kirk Cousins turns out to be the better player. Same thing with Trey Lance. That's what I was missing early. Trey Lance drafted in 21. He's slow to catch on. Shanahan saw something he liked in this Brock Purdy kid out of Iowa State. The very last pick kind of remind me of the Tom Brady draft, picked the 6th round. And he's going to he's already been to 1 NFC championship game and a Super Bowl. And he's out to get a big contract now, you know. But it's I think that there's teams that reach on that. And if you're not sure, here's one thing that I've caught on the last few years. These small school quarterbacks, more often than not, as of late, Zach Wilson, BYU, and you've got the guy there out of I just lost the North Dakota guy that went to out of the Eagles. He didn't look good. He has not looked good since his injury. And you could tell that the pressure was kind of getting to him. And for some reason, his name is slipping my mind. I'm looking at it now. Carson Wentz. Yeah. Carson Wentz. Now, I just talked about Steve McNair coming out of Alcorn State. I mean, you got your outliers, and of course, I know Wyoming you got guys like Josh Allen, Wyoming, Ben Roethlisberger, Miami, Ohio. You got your outliers there. But it's one of those positions. This is why that they do all those tests. Wonderlic test, the equivalent of the Wonderlic test. They're trying to see cognitive ability, quick decision. They're trying to do all these tests and say all this stuff, and the league get criticized for it. It's because it's so much money. Jobs are lost over it. It's just the nucleus of the teams, the quarterback position. And when you've got one, you're afraid to let him go if he can win games and get you to the playoffs. Dak Prescott, he's going to play this year with no contract next year. Now, I'm not crying for him. He's going to be fine. He's already made a fortune already. Well over, I don't know. You add endorsements, that dude's probably made $200 million, with his other. But it is a bit of a crapshoot. I've seen guys that I thought that was going to be a lock to work out. Right now, look at Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence has got to stay healthy this year, he's got to stop running so much, Chad. It's just and the thing is, you look at a team like Green Bay, you look at an organization like Green Bay. They've let the last two quarterbacks sit for 3 years, and they have little room for error. It's not a big free agent destination. They're the smallest city in all of pro sports, not just the NFL. Green Bay West kind of got grandfathered in. And they've had two Hall of Famers in Favre and Rodgers come through there. And then they let Rodgers sit for 3 years, and they've let Jordan Love sit for 3 years. And Jordan Love, I was for sure he was going. 2 years ago, last year, I said he was going to be a bust. Last year, I said, yeah, he'll look good early. And he did. He looked good in that opening game against the Bears last year. But something happened in the middle of that season, and right around Thanksgiving, thing just went. It's like all that training everything just slowed down for him, and it looked like he was in slow motion. And that's the only other thing I can think of. Now, if you got a guy that's not picking it up, he's not putting in the work, and he's making the same mistakes in preseason, year 2 and 3 that he made in year 1, like a Malik Willis, for example, Justin Fields, for example, then I could see you move. But if you got another guy raw, going with this first read, but you could see him making big jumps, and you're finding ways to win games, like a Jalen Hurts per se, like a Lamar Jackson per se, then you could see things working out. But for the most part, like I said before in this program, I would prefer for my quarterback to sit 1 year. Even that I know with my knowledge of teams trying to take advantage of loading up this team around a rookie quarterback because their salary cap number is so low and making a Super Bowl run. I'm aware of that. But if once you got that position settled in, you got total confidence in that position, then you can do something else. It's so much easier to build a defense. And the more I look at this, it really is about the coach. And I'm about to go over the NFC North. I just watched another episode of Hard Knocks, and I know they got a good defense. That Bear team could be the Jets when Mark Sanchez first got there. They could do that and go all the way to the AFC Championship game as a rookie. Or because they got a defensive-minded head coach, be underwhelming and I'm leaning towards more of that, the latter. Situation's everything, coaching now. It is so lopsided towards the offensive minded head coach. Like I was telling Rich the other day, Rich Ferris, that you look at it from a perspective of, I wonder if the Bears, Ron Poles, is looking down here in Tennessee. They got to play Tennessee in week 1, a week from Sunday. Yes, we're already there. We're coming up on Labor Day weekend. They're going to play a week from Sunday. And I bet he's thinking, man, we probably should have got that Bill Callahan's son, Brian Callahan. Chad says situation and scheme is huge. Bo Nix may be an example. Yeah, the scheme is perfect for Bo Nix. Bo Nix has 60-plus starts in college. That's unprecedented. It's like he set out a few years. I mean, there's only, 12 games in the regular season. You had the COVID year. He's had he's had this shirt, that shirt. The COVID kind of helped. He's transferred from Auburn to Oregon. He's toughed it out. He's an example of a guy. He's had a great camp. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't find a way to get into the playoffs this year. Of course, they're in Patrick Mahomes' division, per se. But if you put Bo Nix on the Patriots, I don't think it's going to work out for him. With that coaching staff, you put him on the Seahawks, I'm not sure it's going to work out with that defensive-minded coaching staff. Just not sure about that. Not too sure about that. But with Sean Payton, similar system he ran in Oregon. Payton really liked the guy, thought he was a second-round talent, but he's got that quick release. And, of course, Payton liked that football acumen, toughness, and whatnot. And now you're getting a lot of good vibes out of Denver. And what was he, like the 4th quarterback taken? Again, look at Brock Purdy, the very last guy, last quarterback and the very last player overall, Mr. Relevant. And he's the only one from that class who's going to get a big second contract coming up next year. But I would ideally like to see a guy sit a year and then bring him in full throttle. Bring him in, build up around him, get him some tight ends, get a good running game. And these last 5 years, both coaches have been offensive background coaches in the Super Bowl. It's just the facts. I was mentioning this the other day. If Steve McNair, talking about the Netflix documentary, if Steve McNair would have had a Mike Shanahan type of coach who coached John Elway, and Andy Reid, Titans had 2 Super Bowl rings by now. I think they would have won back. I think they would have won in 99, and I think they would have beat the Ravens in 2000. They would have won back-to-back. And Titans, that would have been talked about like the Ravens, per se. But it's the way of the world. It is a crapshoot. Where you land matters. And as you can see, the bust that we've had, that's the reason why the NFL goes through all these crazy head tests when they're trying to find a quarterback. It's just, it's hard as all get out. Okay, now, running out of time here. I get to talking. I'm just so long-winded. All right, NFC North. I was talking about the Bears. Bears have added a ton of players here over the last 2 years. Ron Poles, man, trading away the first overall pick, getting a high-end caliber, going back 2 years. DJ Moore, okay, and of course with Carolina, they end up getting a flood of picks there with DJ Moore, a star receiver in his prime. And, of course, we know what happened. Carolina gets the first overall pick, which goes on to the Bears here, and they get the first and the 9th overall pick. I thought Matt Eberflus was going to get fired in the offseason. They decided not to fire him. If I can find their notes here. I guess it would help if I can find their notes. They decided not to fire him. They fired Luke Getsky, their offensive coordinator, instead, and hired Shane Waldron over from Seattle, who helped resurrect Geno Smith's career. And, of course, we know Pete Carroll got fired, but Waldron seems to be a pretty good offensive coordinator. Decent. You know, they finished 7-10 last year, 3-1 score game. So the Bears, and like I've said this before, only reason they kept him, Matt Eberflus, is because his side of the ball they did get right. Number one, run defense. Who was it? Montez Sweat, the trade they made with the Commanders, really helped their pass rush down the stretch. Who was it? Jalen Johnson, their cornerback. I was been watching this Hard Knocks here, and Johnson, the first 2 weeks of training camp, 3 weeks, Keenan Allen couldn't catch a ball against this guy in practice. Not a game, practice, like Allen Iverson would say. But no, very good cornerback, very good run defense. And then you look at what they've done on the offensive side. We know about DJ Moore coming in, got Rome Odunze, didn't even think he was going to be there at the 9th pick. Got him, of course, traded for Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet on another contract there at tight end. You start to say all this, she's like, hey, man, this team's unstoppable. You know, they got DeAndre Sweat there at the running back position there, upgraded everywhere. Line is mid-level, middle of the road, maybe a little better than 15th or 16th. You got a lot of young, hungry players there. And you know, basically it just comes down to Justin Fields couldn't finish games. He could not throw. Now, I've been listening to some of the film study. There's a guy named Greg Cosell, works with NFL Films. I think he's a nephew of the great Howard Cosell. And he was saying on the Colin Cowherd show about a week or two ago that the problem with Caleb Williams is he hugs the pocket. He moves up in the pocket when he doesn't have to. And he likes to play hero ball, which means he likes to get out of the pocket and throw off the run. Well, he's not the biggest guy in the world. And we saw what that can lead to when he was on the road for USC and getting blasted by Notre Dame. Notre Dame totally destroyed him. Okay. So when you see that and look at the depth of this Titan team that they're going to play in week 1, all right, L'Jarius Sneed's going to play, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, all right. And, of course, you got Awuzie, one of the better cornerbacks, much upgraded cornerback in the NFL, both expected to play next week. All right. You got a second-year guy with an offensive-minded head coach in Brian Callahan and a much, much improved offensive line going against a true rookie in his first career start. I think they're going to have some problems early. They're going to make some big plays with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has put himself in harm's way in the preseason. He's made some good throws, but he has put himself in harm's way. He also had a grounding call. This was talked about last night in the Hard Knocks show. He had a grounding call. And he threw it to Odunze when Odunze was out of bounds. So you got a lot of moving pieces there, okay? Like I said before, they really need to take it slow with this guy. I would prefer for them to have got a veteran and played that veteran 1 year and let Williams sit for a year. That's just me. But they're going to go ahead and put him in there, you know? So I do think that they're going to lose that opening game against Tennessee. I've said that before. They're not going to get off to a great start like people says they're going to do. You know, I think Tennessee's going to go up there and beat them. I think this defense coordinator for Tennessee, you look at the depth Tennessee has acquired. picking up new linebackers, safeties. I don't think that Will Levis is going to make that many mistakes. Now, it could. It's going to be in Chicago. They're 4.5-point favorites. We'll see. But anyways, so I got them losing that. Then they got to play at Houston. A lot of people's picking Houston to get to the Super Bowl, with C.J. Stroud on Sunday Night Football, with their pass rush, with them adding Danielle Hunter, a 15-sack guy from Minnesota. They start off 0-2. They go back on the road. They beat the Colts. I'm actually giving them a win against the Rams but the Rams are a playoff team. They were in the playoffs last year. This is in Chicago. That's an early start time, which will help. I think they'll bounce back because they've got such good players. But, I see them going on a little bit of a tear, though. I got them beating the Rams, beating the Colts, beating Carolina, and ultimately, I got this team finishing about 8-9. They were 7-10 last year. My guess is Eberflus will probably get fired, and they'll go after an offensive mind. Chad says Big Jeff and Sweat and company. Yeah, it's going to be, and Sweat looks great. I predicted 2 picks. Snead will get 1. Yeah. All those cornerback blitzes, they're going to throw a lot of – he's really going to have Caleb Williams. And Caleb's going to try to play hero ball in Chicago. Now, only way they win that Tennessee game is Tennessee goes in there and turns the ball over. Now, of course, they could. Bears got a pretty good defense. They could knock Will Levis out of the game, and then you got Mason Rudolph in there. I mean, Tennessee don't have the depth. But either way, I got them going 8-9. 8-9. But we'll see. We'll see. I do think that Eberflus they'll be a fun team, though. They'll be a fun 8-9. They were a fun 7-10 last year at times, and then other times they're hard to watch because Fields didn't know what he was doing out there. Okay? But anyways, turning the page here because it looked like I'm 42 minutes. I don't want to get too far. I'm reading this Lindy's magazine, by the way, this NFL magazine. And right off the bat, when I turn to talk about the Lions, there's a highlighted section here. It says, on the hot seat, Aaron Glenn. And I couldn't agree more with this magazine, okay? A lot of people saying, well, the Lions are the hunted now. They're not going to be able to handle being the hunted now. Wrong. A lot of prognosticators, myself included, big time, small time, Vegas. The Lions last year were preseason picked to win the NFC North. And they did it. They did it. They won the NFC North. They've added Carlton Davis. And like I said with Aaron Glenn, that's the only weakness on the team. The coordinator, a little bit aggressive sometimes. Sometimes the defense will get out of line. Made some adjustments, though. Team made some plays in the Rams game down the stretch in the playoffs. Same thing with Tampa. And, of course, kept that 49er team in check for about 3 quarters, per se. But they've upgraded their secondary. They've added Carlton Davis from Tampa. I mentioned DJ Ritter on the offensive line with Marcus Davenport. They've added some depth there. Kevin Zeitler. This is a top 5 line in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. I want to say they're number 2. They've also extended. I was hoping they could have kept him on playing on that last year of his deal to keep an edge for Jared Goff. They didn't want to take that chance and have to pay a bigger amount of dollars. I guess they're not in love with Hendon Hooker, as I thought maybe they would be. But either way, Jared Goff got a big extension in the offseason. I've talked about that already. Audemars St. Brown, their star wide receiver, also got a big extension as well. This team, I've mentioned this before, way back in March. I think that they are pushing toward, and I haven't broke down the whole league yet. They did have an injury with their kicker. They had to replace their kicker, and I know Jahmyr Gibbs is a little banged up coming in. That's their second-year running back who I expect big things out of, okay? I think they're going to be fine with Montgomery. But as of right now, this team also kept their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. They kept Ben Johnson when everybody was wanting to get him, including the Washington Commanders. That's 2 years in a row he's turned down jobs at Carolina, I want to say, Washington, whatnot. So they're all intact there, totally 9 offensive starters, 8 defensive starters. Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best pass rushers in the game, coming into his own. He's going to command a lot of money eventually. And I mentioned all those linebackers and stuff and good players on the defensive side of the ball, getting that second year out of a lot of those young players. I do expect big things from this team, okay? I've got them really getting off to a good start here. It helps when you got a good schedule, you know? It really does. They open up with the Rams at home. Rams a good team. Rams could beat them. It's a night game, though. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be in Detroit. Plus, the Rams got some injuries coming into the season. So they got to be careful and not get Matt Stafford hurt again, former Lion. So, yes, they could lose that game. I don't think so. They've got the Rams at home, Tampa at home. It's just like the playoffs. It was flipped, right? Rams, Tampa, just like the playoffs. At Arizona, Seattle on Monday night. They play, I think they play the NFC West. And, of course, they play the AFC South, Tennessee. They beat Tennessee. And, of course, they play at Dallas off of bye week. So, I've got this team finishing at 13-4. I think Detroit's really going to play well this year, pending injury, 13-4. Now they expect to win. They're not going to feel the pressure of being hunted. Now it comes, we think we can. We think, the little engine, I think I can. Now it is, I know I can. I expect us to win, pending a bunch of injuries. Not a lot of weaknesses. They shored up that secondary. Other than Aaron Glenn, I would have moved off Glenn. I would have got another coordinator, but that's just me. But speaking of other coordinators, that takes me to Green Bay. Wow, what a run that Green Bay went on last year at the end of the season. This Green Bay team early in the year, they lost at the Raiders. The Packers did. They lost at Denver. 2 bad teams that picked high in the draft last year, folks. But they turned it on. They beat the Rams. But they're up and down. They end up getting to the playoffs. But they were the 4th youngest team in the NFL ever to get to the playoffs since 1970. Average age like 25, But they beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs, got way up, beat the Chiefs on Sunday night. Very next week, lost to the Giants. So that's going to roll over some this year, I do believe. Even though you got guys like Jaden Reed, you got, what's his name? Christian Watson. They let Aaron Jones go at running back, but they signed Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. Now A.J. Dillon's hurt. So they got a little injury issue with the running back position. And they've also fired their defensive coordinator, Joe Barry. Let me make sure I get this right here. they went on and fired their defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, and hired Jeff Hafley in from Boston College. He was a head coach. So, I like what LaFleur's done with Love. Very confident. We saw what they did going to San Francisco as well, beating that crap out of Dallas in that game. Man, put 50-something. That was crazy. Beat Dallas 48-32, and that game wasn't even close, man. That game was not even Love was on the verge of losing his job, and then he felt the heat. So I can still see some of that inconsistency, Chad. Love got the big contract in the offseason. Still a very young team. LaFleur's not really a stickler for details, but he's a great schemer. He's a great schemer here, And they opened up in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't even know where that is, but I know it's going to be a good game, but it's going to be on Peacock, and I probably won't order it, Chad? So I think they'll probably lose that Philadelphia game, but that's a coin toss. They could beat Philly. They could beat anybody. They're really talented, Young team, hungry all over the place. But overall, I got this team being competitive. I got them at 10-7, okay? They were like 9-8, found a way to get in there. I don't know how they got in last year, but they did. They got in. They won 2 games, they won a road game and almost won another one. I mean, they lost to San Francisco 24-21. They almost beat them on the West Coast. So I got them 10-7. They look to be a wild card at this time. At this time, they look to be a wild card team in my opinion. Now, Minnesota, I tell you what, you talk about patience. If I'm the owner there, the one guy I'm patient with is this head coach. What's his name? Kevin O'Connell, 3rd season coach there. He made something out of nothing last year before Cousins got hurt. I like the fact that they brought in Brian Flores, really shored up that defense there, getting rid of defensive players, putting in young guys in there, and still playing pretty well, much better than they were the year before last. Again, it's easier to replace a defensive guy, the defensive coach and assistant, than it is an offensive coordinator. And having a defensive-minded head coach, if you get what I'm saying. How many coordinators have Pittsburgh went through under Tomlin? How many coordinators has the Titans went through before they actually, 3 in 3 years or something like that? So easier to replace a defensive coordinator with an offensive-minded head coach than vice versa, okay? In my opinion, the proof is there. I thought that was a little much on the Justin Jefferson. I thought that was more about selling tickets, $35 million plus a year, 36, whatever, some crazy amount of money, biggest contract in history. This magazine has their general manager on the hot seat. I'm not so sure about that. I think they went well. They just had some injuries at the quarterback position. J.J. McCarthy, they got him out of Michigan, had a great game in the preseason, but then he tears his meniscus. Go figure. And now they've got then I tell you what, Sam Darnold, who was a cast-off of the Jets, who they missed on, that's kind of bounced around the league. I like the guy at times, but the problem with him, he makes bad decisions with his body, runs headfirst in the end zone a lot, gets himself concussed, makes a lot of mistakes when it comes to sloppy play like that. But we saw what O'Connell did with Dobbs. Now, they've got Hockenson, who's been hurt. I think he's going to start off on the IR. That's their tight end. That's just misfortune, you know. J.J. McCartney tore his meniscus. So you're going in with Sam Darnold, all right, and you're going to have an upgraded defense. And they signed Aaron Jones out of Green Bay, by the way, you know. But if you're looking at this division, folks, Green Bay's they're gangbusters out there, you know. But they did beat Green Bay last year. So you just don't know. I mean, this O'Connell is a scheming demon. This guy's a good coach, man. If I'm the owner, if it don't work out this year, and I'm predicting it's not, I stay with this guy. You know, it's like if I'm the owner of the 49ers, I'm staying with Shanahan because I see an Andy Reid type of guy. Same thing with O'Connell. This guy's very clever, bringing in guys off the street, backups, and they're still winning games. You know, I think they had like 3 or 4 quarterbacks last year. So, and maybe Darnold could be comeback player of the year. What Darnold could have, they got the defense. Could he be a Rich Gannon type of player who goes to a different team and kind of bounces around, makes a run later on in his career when he's like 6 years in, he's close to 30 years old? I don't know. It could happen. I doubt it. So I got them going 7-10, and hopefully they keep on. If O'Connell gets fired, remember they were in the playoffs a few years ago. They just didn't have the defense get the stops. Got in the playoffs with Kirk Cousins, and got beat by that Giant team 2 years back, if you all recall. So, all right, let's recap the NFC North. All right, Detroit's at 13-4 so far. Detroit's at 13-4. Green Bay second at 10-7. Looking at this, that's why this is what I picked a lot of these games on. They're playing teams on the road off bye weeks. I give that a big advantage to the team coming off a bye week, or they're on a short week where they played a Monday night and they got to go on the road across the country, playing another team off a bye week or something like that, or a team that if you played on a Thursday, if the quarterbacks are pretty similar, I'll lean on the team that's playing at home on Thursday. For example, just about anybody that plays Jacksonville in London, that team goes to London every single year. I'm going to give Jacksonville, pending the quarterback situation, I'm going to give them the edge. They blew out Baltimore one year. Okay, so that's how I come up with this. That's what took me so long. That's why I only got one division, and I wanted to get this NFC East, but I got all next week. There will be a show Monday. I'm going to be working my butt off this weekend trying to get this divisions breaking down because I take it serious. I like it. So I've got Detroit 13-4, winning it again. Green Bay 10-7. Chicago 8-9. I got Chicago 8-9 in third place. Now, maybe they win a few games. Maybe they beat Tennessee and they're 9-8. Okay, maybe that can happen. Maybe they win one of these close games, and I'm not saying they're going to win. And they do their thing. I just think Eberflus, Caleb Williams decision making, trying to be hero, probably going to get banged up at some point. I think it's not going to go as rosy as it said. We know they've got a well of a team there, though. But I got to go on 8-9, and of course Minnesota 7-10. 7-10. And that was the exact same record they had last year. So that's your NFC North. Chad says Aaron Jones may be have a good year. Yeah, Aaron Jones. Now he's got some age on him. We'll see. He's with a good schemer there. But he's got but Minnesota's kind of got off to a rough start. Hawkinson being injured. J.J. McCarthy already done for the year. Things just happen. Better things, hope, love. And, of course, if Green Bay – by the way, if Love and the Green Bay's got to play here in Tennessee week 3. If Love gets hurt and Malik Willis is out there, Tennessee will run roughshod on them. You know, they'll run roughshod on them. I just got a feeling Green Bay is going to be up and down all year. And mind you, last year they beat the world champions on Sunday Night Football. And then the very next week they lost to the lowly Giants, who picked, 6th? Just saying. The way the great late crazy O.J. Simpson would say, just saying. If you like the show, share the show. Tomorrow I'll be back here with the Mad New Yorker. We'll go over week 1 and the college football biggest games. We'll pick a few of those games. I'll get his thoughts. By the way, Florida State, I had them in the playoff. He had them winning the ACC and getting to the national championship. They've already lost to Georgia Tech. That was in the first week. So hopefully he'll be on tomorrow, and we'll be able to talk about that. If he's not on tomorrow, I'll be doing more NFL breakdowns. So, all right, folks. Again, if you like the show, share the show. Already at an hour. I will see you tomorrow. Either way, same time, same place here on the Real Sports Scope.